Good morning, America. Welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Robert McNeely. A pleasure to be with you after this beautiful weekend. Well, in some cases, storms have been pretty bad throughout the southeast, so our thoughts and prayers with those affected by the flooding, especially western Tennessee into Arkansas. Only 7% of the state was outside of a storm area in the Razorback state, so our thoughts and prayers with so many throughout the southeast. Even yesterday here in Auburn, Alabama, into this morning, some flood warnings, but mostly looks like damage not too extensive. But again, our thoughts and prayers with those dealing with that. We'll actually have Christina Loren on at some point this morning to discuss her expertise and her meteorology background on just some of her thoughts, because we're seeing tornadoes throughout the country that have not been in this number in a very long time. In fact, the average tornado amount for this part of the season should be in the 30 to 40 range. Apparently, it's already over 100 of those that have touched down. So the differences between the watch and the warnings, of course, warnings those who have actually touched down. But we are awaiting President Trump as he celebrates this continued coverage of right side sports, meeting with the Los Angeles Dodgers today, the World Series champions, of course, and we are in full swing with baseball season. And they say with April showers brings May flowers, and that emerald green, we see the blooming happening at the White House. And over the course of the weekend, First Lady Melania Trump opening up those garden tours once again. Thanks for those who have shared on Facebook. Such a beautiful time of year to enjoy our nation's capital. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. Colonial Metals Group. Paul Stone, the great CEO who visits us regularly, has really explained how important this is to protect your retirement against inflation, especially when it comes to the activities of the Chinese Communist Party. If you've watched over the last few days, war games outside of Taiwan, of course, tariff wars happening throughout the United States, President Trump signing last week that important executive order on tariffs, and now 50 nations want to come to the table and say, Mr. President, let's renegotiate. Even this morning, afternoon for them, NATO and French and also other European allies getting together to decide how they will address the United States tariffs. So the European Union coming together to do such things. But in the meantime, what does that mean for your wallet? We'll find out what that does mean by going to Colonial Metals Group. You need gold and silver. It's crucial in this day and age. So scan that QR code now. Shield your savings today. Go to freegoldguide.com/RSBN. That is freegoldguide.com/RSBN. This no obligation guide with many great patriots, including Judge Janine Pirro, who are endorsing this great organization. It'll tell you what to do when it comes to saving the value of your money. Think about this. Gold has increased in value over 7,000%. And that's since 1971, when we went off of the gold standard during the Nixon administration. So protect you, yourself, your loved ones, everything that's important in life, and that can be a great financial tool, not only properties, assets, 401ks, and IRAs, but gold and silver, tangible metals. And of course, people like Warren Buffett, not only putting all of those billions into the stock market, but encouraging gold and silver, the best in the business. Colonial Metals Group, thank you for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. There's a live shot of the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, where today President Trump will be welcoming the Los Angeles Dodgers, those world champions. Man, their pitching is good. They just know what they're doing. Talk about money ball. They can get on base and they can take down even the best amongst them. I even thought last year maybe the Atlanta Braves had a shot, but nothing compared to the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'll see how that season goes as it's commencing in its early days. So far, my Chicago Cubs in first place. They're 6-4. How about that for the National League Central? So we love baseball here, America's pastime. As I'm sure you were watching the great coverage this weekend with Matthew Alvarez in San Antonio, Texas. Sadly, our Auburn Tigers did fall short, but again, their whole motto, call God. Whether they win or they lose, it's all about giving it to the big man upstairs and communing with him. Love how Coach Bruce Pearl mentioned in the post-game press conference, that the worst thing you can do, it's not the worst way to insult someone actually, is not to necessarily be rude. It's not to necessarily push them aside, but it's really ignoring them in the process. He said he does not want his players to ignore their Father God. And what a great message to have in college, because it's about shaping servant leaders, and Bruce Pearl's doing just that at this great university. We're so proud of the run, and we look forward to next season. Also, congratulations to the UConn Husky women's team. They won their Final Four. Of course, the men's final tonight between Florida and also the University of Houston. An exciting game tonight, so be sure to watch that. Also, President Trump, we have some footage from his victory over the weekend with the senior championship. He was enjoying some golf, also enjoying a working weekend at Doral, and of course, a little bit north of that, Miami, up in Mar-a-Lago in West Palm Beach. So President Trump hitting the links again, but also some serious things right around the corner for this great country of ours. President Trump showing on True Social the fentanyl crisis. It is killing hundreds of thousands of people, and it has historically. President Trump securing that border to make sure this stops. But we have that very sad and important video to show you right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. And it's a scary thing to think about, just the amount of lives that have been taken from this poisoning. I think President Trump has really accomplished not only a number of things on the global scale, with, of course, the use of tariffs, but also changing the opinion in Washington, D.C. over the Chinese Communist Party. Sleepy Autopen brought them into the World Trade Organization when he was a senator, along with then President Bill Clinton. This was in 1999-2000, that rough time period. And it was the greatest mistake we made, perhaps on an international scale, outside of warfare. And it's a horrible thing to think about, because it's led to these open borders. It's led to fentanyl coming from China, going through the southern border, and the poisoning of hundreds of thousands of our young people. It's crazy to think about. And I think in the past we thought, oh, why not? Why would someone use a drug? Why would someone just say no? Perhaps like, Betty Ford in that clinic, and this, don't stay away from these things. Then we realized that so much of it was over the counter. So many people thinking that they were taking Ritalin or some form of medication when it was actually laced with the poison fentanyl. And that's why it's so important to not share any kind of even over-the-counter drug with even a friend, a family member. Really know that your labels are sealed. It's coming from the pharmacy, because people have had to deal with this. And thank God Narcan's becoming more and more available for multitude of police departments and police officers, so they can reverse the poisoning immediately. But this is why we want to make everyone aware. Just talk to your kids, talk to those, especially those young people in life who are, peer pressured into something that, even with good intentions, could lead to immediate death. So President Trump fighting hard to make sure that this war on America's youth ends, and that fentanyl poisoning stops in the United States. If you're just joining us now, we're a few minutes into our broadcast. Good morning, I'm Robert McNeely. Always a joy to be with you here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. We are covering President Trump today as he welcomes the Los Angeles Dodgers, that great American baseball team, the World Series champions from last year. And also, he will be meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu, making yet another trip to the White House as he is seeking to fully secure his nation in light of the October 7th, 2023 attacks. It is all winding down, peace and harmony coming to the Middle East once again. Another one of President Trump's highlights from the first term, those beautiful Abraham Accords, where you had once traditional enemies come together to trade, to dialogue, to really know that they can coexist together because it's beneficial for all nations. But one of the crucial things now, getting Israelis back to that northern border with Lebanon in order to continue the farming, the agriculture, so crucial to the state of Israel in light of the Hamas and Hezbollah continued attacks, and President Trump unafraid to strike the Houthis and unafraid to take on all forms of radical Islamic terrorism in roughly 70 plus days being back in office. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, angelpaste.com. Experience the miracle today, a wonderful company outside of Spring, Texas, the Gulf of America, of course. And they have so many different options, but this miracle cream specifically, their best option when it comes to getting rid of those dry hands. Vitamin B infused, non-GMO, no chemicals. You also have the orange option, which helps with immunity, full of vitamin C, a great thing to use when you might be feeling a little bit down. And also a mosquito repellent, all natural. They have that there available because they know a thing or two about mosquitoes in Spring, Texas, a beautiful tropical climate, but nonetheless gets a bit humid, and it's somewhat of a haven when you get all the rain outside and those tight moisture fronts that come in. But we'll talk more to Christina Loren about all that meteorology. They also have a facial spray, great for the guys. So it's just another thing to get you ready to get the town painted red. So angelpaste.com, experience that miracle today. A wonderful Christian-based company. They also hire veterans in the Lone Star State and abroad. So come on down to Spring, Texas and work for the miracle. Angelpaste.com. Thank you for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. And President Trump enjoying a star-studded Right Side Broadcasting sports kind of weekend. And we actually have footage of not only his golf swing, he won the senior championship, but also the landing of Marine One at Trump National Doral. How exciting is that? Imagine if you get to own a golf course and just land right on the golf course. Why not? And this was for the Live Golf Tournament. We'll run both of those videos, and I gotta tell you, I have nothing to share with the president. His golf swing is pretty much perfect. We'll head on to that now.
Shot.
Of course, next to the legend Gary Player, and this is an exciting week. I'll be wearing a lot of green because it's Masters Week officially. So what a way to welcome in this new week. Another championship for President Trump at his club, and a wonderful weekend with the legend Gary Player, who has made his mark on the golf world and, of course, the United States, the premier golfer from the great country of South Africa. So President Trump having a blast with that. Always good to see him getting some R&R because he is working harder than any president, especially really to get America back and great again, because his living predecessors put us so far in the hole. Think about this, over $36 trillion in debt. And that's why these tariffs will ultimately be so important. I know that some people are concerned because they might have lost some money temporarily in the stock market. What's unique about us is we look quarter to quarter. Think about the wealth we have in this country, and we are so blessed with that. The opportunity to literally look week to week, quarter to quarter, year to year about that growth. And The problem is you have places like the Chinese Communist Party. They play a much longer game than the United States does. For example, they're looking at things 100, 200, 300 years down the road. We might be looking at it, just a year or two down the road. So what President Trump is doing here, restructuring the American economy, giving the dollar some weight behind it so that you, the middle class, can really find that American dream, prosper ultimately, and we could push back against these globalist threats. The amazing thing, too, about this is that tax day is just around the corner, and we know how much that's irritating just next week, but you can call those great sponsors of ours, those Patriot experts at Tax Network USA. Settle your back taxes today. Protect yourself from the IRS. Call 800-357-1415. Protect yourself from the IRS. Settle those back taxes now. You can do that by going to tnusa.com/RSBN, whether it's property taxes, state income taxes, or the federal income tax. These people know how to handle it just for you. They share our values. So again, Tax Network USA Incorporated, if you have any questions leading up to next week's April 15th deadline, settle them today. 800-357-1415, tnusa.com/RSBN. Thank you for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. And yes, that dreaded tax day, the federal income tax, we did not have it from 1776 to 1913. Think about that. And perhaps under this administration, it might go bye-bye ultimately. We'll see how everything goes with this tariff negotiation. 50 countries now wanting to come to the table to ask President Trump how they can restructure trade agreements. So it is underway. Very exciting stuff as we are roughly 11 weeks into the successes of this new administration. And if you did not catch the MAGA Minute from Friday, of course, this is Caroline Leavitt's wonderful update that she shares with the American people on a regular basis about everything that's taking place at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We'll run that for you now and see the successes from last week going into this Monday.
Hey guys, it was another very busy week. There were some historic announcements, so let's roll through it for the MAGA Minute. This week, Vice President J.D. Vance and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz took a trip to Greenland to reaffirm the United States' support for the territory. The president signed an executive order to eliminate predatory ticket resellers from the live entertainment market, which will put entertainment consumers first. And he was there with the one and only Kid Rock. The president signed an executive order to establish an investment accelerator to bring in more investments here in the United States. And Liberation Day arrived, with President Trump implementing a 10% global tariff and additional reciprocal tariffs on countries around the world who have been ripping off the United States of America and our workforce. The president sent a very strong message that Americans will no longer be taken advantage of by globalist trade policies. It's the golden rule for the golden age of American economic prosperity. We will see you for next week's MAGA Minute.
I love the MAGA Minute. I love getting my updates from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who is batting 1,000. Her batting average is better than the World Series champion, LA Dodgers, because she brings it to you forthright. She won't mess around, gets the information to the American people. And as she said during week one, the best spokesperson for this administration will be none other than President Trump himself. But she's a heck of a press secretary in her own right, perhaps the best in the modern era. So every day we smile because it's like Christmas here in the United States with President Trump back in office. But here's a comprehensive or a non-comprehensive list of the wins in week 11. Illegal crossings hit a stunning new low, down 95% from the last year. The number of unaccompanied illegal immigrant children also reached a record low. This is so good because of the human trafficking that was taking place. If you remember those videos from the Biden administration during that time, not directly from his administration, but from great news outlets that were actually on the ground filming these border agents speaking to 2 or 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds saying that they crossed the border. They don't know where their parents are. I mean, can you imagine that? If you have a young patriot at home, a toddler, crossing by themselves a border, they were trafficked by coyotes and then almost left for dead. Think about the heat or the cold, depending what sector you go into. You know, something that actually shocked me. I was with a friend on the Arizona-Mexico border years ago, and there were 2 checkpoints we had to go through while still remaining in the United States. And this is like the Tucson sector and somewhat south of that, but that Sonoran Desert is actually high desert. The temperatures can fluctuate wildly throughout the day with very hot hots, very cold colds. And it's a regular occurrence, especially during the Biden administration, where the border agents, our border agents, would find people dead. And it's a humanitarian crisis that took place. Alejandro Mayorkas and Autopen have blood on their hands for what they caused at the southern border. And so many lives lost because of preventable crime. So this has become a highlight for this administration. Promises made, promises kept. Even according to Bloomberg, U.S.-bound migration plunges 99% in the Panama Jungle route, which was one of the most notorious on that trail. President Trump continued to rid our communities of illegal alien criminals. The Trump administration directed the successful arrest of 3 illegal immigrant MS-13 gang members in Florida, and they were wanted on first-degree murder charges with another high-ranking MS-13 member in New York, altogether linked to 11 murders. The Trump administration also directed the transfer of 17 violent illegal immigrant terrorists from the United States to El Salvador. You may have seen last week with Kristi Noem, the Secretary of DHS, in El Salvador, thanking the president in front of that terrible cage of monsters, quite frankly. And you hate to label that with a fellow human being, but these people have treated our fellow citizens and everyone, regardless of race, creed, background, like they were nothing but trash. And in some cases, animals don't treat human beings quite like these gang members have treated their fellow humans. So just an atrocity. So we thank El Salvador for their bravery and standing with the United States. The Trump administration, with state and local law enforcement, successfully arrested more than 40 individuals in a Texas operation targeting the brutal Tren de Aragua plan. And the Trump administration also deported an illegal alien influencer who infamously encouraged fellow illegal immigrants to become squatters. We've seen that so much, especially in the great city of Atlanta. People literally losing their property because illegal alien criminals, drug lords, gangsters would just go in there and say, this is ours now, change the locks, and then they have to take them to court. And in some situations, Fulton County DA Fani Willis, we know about her lawfare against President Trump, just ignored the squatting situation in the city of Atlanta. Amazing what some of these DAs are doing under their influence and overlord, the puppeteer himself, George Soros. But since taking office, the Trump administration has arrested over 100,000 illegal immigrants, deporting the same number of illegal immigrants, again over 100,000, and released just 9 illegal immigrants into the United States, a staggering nearly 100% increase, over 99% decrease over the same period last year under Biden. We also have a video detailing the goodbye by the White House. If you haven't followed them yet on True Social, the new account, at White House. Again, at White House, you can see all of their updates, their videos, and everything coming from the Trump administration right on True Social. If that video is ready, Mr. Director, we could toss it there to the border, the illegal aliens. We'll send that over to that regarding the bye-bye from the White House. I'm just dancing back here. I'm having a good time because these are really bad hombres that are leaving our great country. And every country has borders. I mean, this is common sense. This is not Republican or Democrat. It's we the people versus a deep, bloated, bureaucratic state. And shame on the NGOs and shame on certain organizations that protected these monsters for so long. Sadly, that includes great institutions like the Catholic Church. Catholic Charities, a wonderful institution, had people protecting these monsters. We just know that to be true based on what we know from the last several years. And enough is enough. And I'm smiling from ear to ear because this president deeply cares about the American people and wants to put them first for once, regardless of socioeconomic background, regardless of whether you go to church or not, or your sexual orientation. It's so many people attacked by monsters who came over our border. And it ends with this great president. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. Colonial Metals Group, Paul Stone, the CEO of all CEOs. I got to tell you, this is your go-to for gold and metal, silvers that have stood the test of time. We have an urgent retirement message for you, though, because China is out of control. We know the Chinese Communist Party has been harmed greatly by the Trump administration, the tariff policies, but you look at people like Warren Buffett dumping billions into the stock market and into precious gold and silver. I trust the experts at Colonial Metals Group. You've seen our interviews with Paul Stone here on the network, so I think you should dive in today with your no-obligation guide. freegoldguide.com/RSBN. That is freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Shield your savings now. Scan that QR code and get Colonial Metals Group, their no-obligation guide 2025. It's free, it's on the house, and you could find out how gold and silver can help transform your wealth, but also your retirement. You can also qualify for a free home safe and as much as $7,500 in free silver. So again, that's freegoldguide.com/RSBN, or call these Patriot experts on gold and silver today. 866-317-2159. That is 866-317-2959. Thank you for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. And if we have that image, Mr. Director, that beautiful cartoon that came out from the White House, I actually thought it was a joke at first when I saw it on Truth Social, but it was actually released by the White House. And Vice President Vance and President Trump look good as cartoon characters. Of course, they're very serious in real life, but it was the get them out of here throwback to that beautiful speech from President Trump and that quote there that we do not ask permission from far-left Democrats before we deport illegal immigrants. And that's when J.D. Vance, our 50th vice president, stood up cheering for President Trump during that joint session to Congress, a situation where we saw Democrats refuse to stand up for cancer survivors, refuse to stand up for our Secret Service agents, refuse to stand up for Lincoln Riley's family members, and people in the gallery who are true American heroes who don't want notoriety. They just want to live peaceful lives. History and their experiences colliding together, really in many cases becoming legislation, whether it be through states, whether it be through the federal government, in order to ensure the safety of the American people. And Democrats just sat there. It's delusional. It's some form of woke psychosis, perhaps that woke mind virus, as our friend T.S. Dixon speaks so eloquently on. But this is just an amazing time. And President Trump stating during that speech just a month ago, oh, there you go, Pocahontas finally clapping. And it was about funding the Ukrainian war, the Russia-Ukrainian conflict. And of course here, because who knows if we have the naysayers watching, and that's okay. Welcome if you disagree with us. That's what it's all about here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Being on the right side of history is about having honest and open debate per the First Amendment, freedom of speech. We cherish that here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. But some people think that pouring all of that money, billions and billions of dollars, and the javelins and everything that went to the war effort in Russia and Ukraine will somehow benefit the United States. President Trump wants peace. He wants the killing to stop. On both sides combined, millions of people, civilian and soldiers, dying. Two great civilizations, Russia and Ukraine, both beautiful cultures, and they just have poor leadership ultimately. Being against that war does not mean that you're somehow for Putin. It's wrong that he went in. It's wrong that he invaded a sovereign nation. But how do you handle it when you have all of the living predecessors allowed Vladimir Putin to move in on his enemies? There was one man who made sure that did not happen by dialogue, by talking to world leaders throughout many different countries. And that's President Trump addressing these issues, as he will today with Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu of Israel. And as he's put it, there is no better friend to the state of Israel than President Donald Trump. But his first meeting today, we are expecting very soon, President Trump visits with the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. And there's a live shot there from the East Room in the White House, where we see so many of these celebrations taking place, whether it's the Laken Riley Act being signed into law, meeting with world leaders, now 10 that have visited the White House, Bibi Netanyahu, his second visit, and again, in less than 100 days being back in office. This is a record breakneck pace that only one man can accomplish, and it's Donald J. Trump. And they think that they can slow him down. They think that they can somehow stop his great progress. And when I say they, I mean the bureaucratic far left deep state. But when you have a cabinet of subject matter experts, when you have people who have left a lot of the glitz and glam of the media, of the Hollywood-esque bright lights and the cameras to come and serve their country, you have a team that knows how to address the fake news and the far left nonsense that we saw so much of, not only in the first term, but through that gap of AutoPen, the 4 years of AutoPen. Literally, we had President Trump as the 45th president. Then there was an AutoPen and this military triumvirate, whatever you want to call it. We did not have a commander in chief. It was not constitutional governance, but rather progressive far left craziness. Whether it was Barack Hussein Obama or Dr. Jill Biden, someone was running that White House other than AutoPen. And then now we're back, the 47th president of the United States. Oh, and the lights have come on in the East Room, a beautiful sight. I think that might be my favorite room in the White House. President Trump going to honor these great legends of the ball field, America's pastime, the Los Angeles Dodgers, formerly of Brooklyn, New York, celebrating with this president. And we've had this amazing thing happen with Major League Sports or college sports. As you saw here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, our Right Side Sports side, as well as Matthew Alvarez covering the Final Four this weekend live in San Antonio. Just the amount of players thanking God, thanking their Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. There's a revival happening in this great nation. And it's not just here at this network, but you see it really throughout the country. It's okay again to be a God-fearing, church-going, maybe right of center person, whereas a few years ago, you might have been canceled. You might have been taken off of social media. But so many good people stood up and took on the breach. They stepped into the cultural battleground. And President Trump led that way. He boldly proclaimed that he was not going to back down, that even though everything that happened in the 2020 election, remember when he was leaving office, and that was such a sad day, January 20th, 2021, he said, we will be back in some way, shape, or form. And soon thereafter, that CPAC, I can remember that 2021, it was in Orlando, Florida, and it was just hysterical because so many of us coming from blue mandated states that were forcing you to either get the shot or wear a mask or whatever it was. They were kind of chasing us around the Hyatt at the time, the employees just saying, put your mask on, put your mask on. And everyone said, no, Florida is a free state, so we're going to do as we wish in regards to also following the law, of course. But if we don't want to wear a mask, we don't want to wear a mask. And Jim Jordan, the great congressman from Ohio, boldly the first endorsement of President Trump way back in February 2021 at CPAC. And now we have this here. Fast forward, my goodness, 4 years later, President Trump back at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in order to make America wealthy again, make America healthy again, make America safe again, make America strong again, and ultimately make America great again. And you see it so much in our sports as well. So this is a great celebration, a lighthearted, great start to Monday morning, as so many people over the weekend just suffering from these storms, especially in the southeast. So again, our thoughts and prayers with those facing hundreds and hundreds of tornadoes that have touched down throughout the Midwest into southeastern the United States. So Tennessee getting hit very hard, Nashville experiencing some serious flooding, and of course Arkansas, the entire state, 93% of it was under storm watches and warnings. So our thoughts and prayers with those in those situations, and the governors and of course the president having to deal with all of that in wake of these really strange storms that have been happening on a regular basis. We'll have Christina Loren on later today to dive deep into that, as she is a meteorologist and an expert here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. And we look like we're getting close to that proverbial 2-minute warning in the East Room. President Trump with that beautiful World Series trophy for the champions, the Los Angeles Dodgers. They had a heck of a season last year. And it's tough to repeat in baseball, but if there is one team that can potentially do that, it is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Really an extraordinary team that has stood the test of time, and really one that has been in the mix for the last several years now. So President Trump, we know that he is quite the sports fan himself. Again, enjoying this weekend at Doral. He's been with us since the early part of our broadcast. We saw Friday's touchdown on Doral at the Trump National Course, which he owns, of course. Marine One touching down there for the Live Golf event. He also successfully defended yet another golf championship of his own, the Senior Championship, getting to enjoy some time on the links with the legendary golfer Gary Player. Of course, his generation was the likes of Jack Nicklaus, of Arnold Palmer, people who changed the game of golf and really made it more and more popular throughout the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, into the early 80s and beyond. And that's the beautiful thing about a game like golf. You could play your entire life and really enjoy that. And for me and my family, it's something we enjoy together. But also baseball, America's pastime. President Trump is a huge fan of all sports, and we see him attending these different events on a regular basis, recently with the NCAA wrestling event as well. So it's great to have a commander-in-chief so committed to the American ethos and committed to the things we care about, whether it's inside of the Beltway or even outside of the Beltway. And again, today, President Trump celebrating with those Los Angeles Dodgers from the Golden Coast of California. Kudos to an incredible season. And again, if there's any team, if you don't follow baseball, this could be the team to repeat, something not easy to do. President Trump has really been focused on reciprocal trade, and we saw the executive orders from last week focused on just that. Now, 50 countries coming to the table saying, President Trump, we want to renegotiate trade agreements with the great United States. His Coalition for a Prosperous America has talked about these reciprocal tariffs. A permanent universal baseline tariff resets the global trade environment and finally addresses the destructive legacy of decades of misguided free trade policies. President Trump's decision to implement a baseline tariff is a game-changing shift that prioritizes American manufacturing, protects working-class jobs, and safeguards our economic security with adversaries like China. This is exactly the type of bold action America needs to restore its industrial leadership. And that's the problem. We're not shipping and manufacturing like we used to, especially post World War II. But you know who does a lot of shipping and manufacturing? One of our great sponsors here, Made in America, the great state of Minnesota, in fact, mypillow.com/RSBN. Mike Lindell has the spring sheet sale going on, so a great Easter gift as we are right around the corner to celebrate spring revival, everything this great season brings. How about those Giza Dream sheets and the Percale sheets? Save up to 50% off of the queen size, $29.98 at mypillow.com/RSBN. If you call 800-836-7566, you can support Mr. Mike Lindell and RSBN by shopping now. mypillow.com/RSBN. 2,000 items for up to 50% off. I have many MyPillow items, especially the MyPillow Coffee, the MyPillow Original Pillow itself. The sheets are also outstanding, and I do enjoy the towel sets personally. So mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you to Mr. Mike Lindell for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. And we are awaiting President Trump as he visits with the World Series champions, the Los Angeles Dodgers. A statement from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association stating that for too long now, America's family farmers and ranchers have been mistreated by certain trading partners around the world. President Trump is taking action to address numerous trade barriers that prevent consumers overseas from enjoying high-quality, wholesome American beef. Americans saw early results of President Trump's declaration that the economic surrender is over. What he did last week has set into motion a complete restructuring of the American economy to strengthen the American dollar. Nissan has abandoned its plans to eliminate a shift at its Tennessee production facility. This helps the middle class. Thousands of jobs being introduced to especially this region of the country. General Motors announced it will increase truck production at its Indiana assembly plant. Guardian, the bikes, announced it will expand its production capacity and grow its U.S.-based investment over the course of the next couple of years. Equipment giant JCB has committed to doubling the size of its new U.S. manufacturing facility. Ford Motor Company and Stellantis both announced they will offer U.S. consumer employee pricing on their vehicle. This is just crucial to the manufacturing base and to producing goods once again in the United States. There's no reason. We are as large as sea to shining sea. We make the best products here. We do it better than anyone else. We're not importing poison anymore from the Chinese Communist Party, at least for the most part. They took over our pharmaceuticals. I mean, it's scary to think about how vulnerable we were under AutoPen. And now it's back to common sense. And I know it might be a situation right now where you might be looking at 401k or IRA or investments and, the stock market looks a little scary right now. Hold the line, because very soon this economy is going to roar and skyrocket, much as it did during President Trump's first term, and much as it did going back to, remember the recession from Jimmy Carter, the high inflation. If you were around then, President Reagan said, stick to this game plan, the tax cuts, the tariffs where necessary, and all of a sudden America came roaring back in 1982. And this is a very similar situation. Now, much, much more in debt, $36 trillion to be in fact, mostly thanks to AutoPen, but thank you to the unfunded liabilities and the wars started by President Trump's previous living predecessors. He is the antithesis of Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Hussein Obama, and AutoPen Joe. These four attempted to ruin the United States in order to enrich their globalist buddies and themselves. In fact, think about it. No one's become as rich as they have off of the American presidency. And thank God Doge is taking a look at these congressmen who stay in there 30, 40, 50 years in some cases, who have made millions and millions of dollars. They have good salaries, but they shouldn't be making millions of dollars year in and year out with their insider trading. You know, people like Martha Stewart went to jail for those types of practices. I guess if you're in Congress, you're above the law. But this president committed to law and order. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. Of course, American Finance. You could save an average of $800 per month. And if you reach out today, you can actually get started and roll into 2 months worth of savings. So American Finance, ready, willing, and able to provide up to $800 per month. So that's, think about this, $1,600 of savings just by being with Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. Thank you to AmericanFinancing.net, a great company here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, sponsoring us. So this is a great move if you own a home, whether it's townhouse, a single family home, whatever that might be. Great to look into American financing. With inflation still playing a role in the United States, important to reach out to this great company today, AmericanFinancing.net/RSBN. Thank you for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. And there's a live look at the East Room. We are awaiting President Trump as he celebrates today with those World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. Some more important meetings on the schedule today, including meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of the great state of Israel, his second visit to the White House since President Trump, coming back to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. President Trump has continued to pursue peace through strength policies that strengthen all of the world. He has deployed an additional military asset to the Middle East as a warning to the Iranian regime. The Trump administration inked a $2 billion air defense deal with the beautiful country of Poland. President Trump also secured a pledge from Finland to raise its defense spending to 3% of its GDP. This was done over, of course, golf a couple of weekends ago. The Finnish president, a great golfer, also on the team with Gary Player and Senator Lindsey Graham, posting about that, saying that everyone else except for him carried the team. And of course, we know that President Trump has endorsed Senator Lindsey Graham of the Palmetto State, South Carolina, for another term in office. President Trump held a successful call with Egyptian President El-Sisi to discuss the immense progress the United States has made in eliminating the Houthi terrorists. And President Trump had a productive call with the Vietnamese leader, Tu Lam, who expressed willingness to cut the country's tariffs on U.S. imports. So winning, winning, winning on all levels. And this economic agenda coming from the peace through strength, really benefiting most Americans. The latest jobs report shattered expectations. 228,000 plus jobs in March. It was anticipated that it would only be a growth of around 100,000. So for the second straight month, this is highlighted by massive growth in the private sector job growth arena, a spike in full-time employment, wage growth, and an expanding labor market. According to CNBC, private companies added roughly 155,000 jobs in March alone. That was more than expected in the private sector. Wholesale egg prices continue to drop, falling to an average price of $3 per dozen, or nearly 60% since January, amid the Trump administration's taking office. So this, again, they are combating the avian bird flu while this is all going on. So you might have seen, whether it's Trader Joe's, Costco, Sam's Club, Publix, think of the other great ones, most in the Midwest, of course, Aldi, you have Mariano's. So many of those have asked that you only take 2 or 3 cartons of eggs at a time. So even amidst all of this, with inflation, with an avian bird flu, Brooke Rollins working so hard at the Department of Agriculture to curb all of this, still prices going down as a result. President Trump established the United States Investment Accelerator to attract and facilitate billion-dollar investments in the United States. Also, securing the release of 2 U.S. citizens detained in Mexico while signing an executive order to crack down on price gouging and ticket scalping in the entertainment industry. You might have seen Bob Ritchie, otherwise known as Kid Rock, in the Oval Office with President Trump just last week. And as he said, I want my fans to come and see my shows. And many artists do not have control over that, whether they're dealing with Ticketmaster, the big brokerage firms. In some cases, they will buy up several tickets, then resell them for 2 or 3 times or more their value. And sometimes people have to choose, well, should I go on that family vacation or should I go see my favorite artist while they're in town? And Kid Rock saying that I can't do this anymore. It's led to other people, even like Garth Brooks. I know I'm a big country fan, so seen him a couple of times. He's done something to go around those big ticket item, different groups like Ticketmaster, like Vivid Seats and all those others, so that people can actually afford to go to their concerts. This isn't a Republican or Democrat thing. Again, it's we the people versus the bureaucratic lobbyists, the deep state globalists who just want money, 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 and they want to screw you, the middle class, in that process. So President Trump, Kid Rock, and cultural icons like Elon Musk committed to you, the American people. We love our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. And one of the best is Kalshi. Think about, again, we were just talking about this egg prices going down or up this month. What say you? Well, they have been going down. What will happen in April? Why don't you scan the QR code now for Kalshi.com/RSBN. You can make trades and bets in real time on all of the major token items that are taking place in this great country, whether it's sports, whether it's politics, whether it's the culture at large. Make your voice known today and put your investment into that by making some cold hard bets on these live trades. So scan that QR code now, Kalshi.com/RSBN. Thank you for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. That is Kalshi, KALSHI.com/RSBN. And we are awaiting President Trump live from the East Room with those Los Angeles Dodgers, the World Series champions. The championship trophy is at hand. We'll be next to President Trump as he speaks live from the podium. We're going through some of those victories that he's had these past few weeks, 11 weeks in office. The Department of Energy unveiled its plans to use thousands of acres of its land, including national laboratory campuses, nuclear sites, and former enrichment plants, to quickly develop data centers that will power the artificial intelligence revolution. The Department of Energy also removed additional regulatory barriers on liquefied natural gas exports. And as President Trump said, so much of the liquid gold right under our feet. And how good will that be compared to an auto pen that canceled the pipeline coming from Alaska through Canada all the way to the United States. Even former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, that far left lunatic, wanted that pipeline coming through Canada because it provided Canada with jobs and with growth and with wealth. And thank God President Trump putting that back online, the Keystone XL pipeline. Meanwhile, AutoPen, when he got rid of that pipeline, he decided to offer up his support for a pipeline going from Russia to Germany, and then making the Russia-Ukraine conflict even more complicated as a result, because so much of Europe relying on Russian energy. We could be energy independent here in this country. It's simple. We've done it before. Look at all that oil in the beautiful Gulf of America and all the oil under our feet. It just makes sense. We are a self-sustaining nation. It's time for us to export more rather than import, and making us weaker on the global scale. This president understands that. And going back to the 2016 campaign, when he was debating crooked Hillary Clinton, isn't it about time that we have someone who knows a thing or two about money? That's what President Trump said. And he's right. He knows a thing or two about money, having gone to the Wharton School of Finance. The man is a brilliant businessman who built a global empire, the Trump Organization, dominating in real estate, dominating in golf, and dominating in hospitality. The man knows his stuff. And if you have any inclination that he does not, why don't you go back and watch The Apprentice? It's streaming now live. I want to say it's on Hulu, but even the YouTube has different clips of it from going back years and years, and I've had the privilege of working with a number of those contestants in my career and meeting nearly half of them who participated, whether it was regular apprentice, celebrity apprentice, and they all have the same opinion of President Trump. He knows his stuff, and he is the biggest boss man in any room. The Department of Energy has removed additional regulatory barriers on all of these gas exports. So it's all natural gas, and that will make us safer and stronger in turn. The Department of the Treasury also launched a new public-private partnership to safeguard the financial systems against illicit activities by the Iranian regime and announced additional sanctions against Iran as part of the Trump administration's maximum pressure strategy. And we saw Howard Lutnick, the Director of Commerce. What a great cabinet member, because he's been traveling along with President Trump and enacting safety and security through not only tariffs, but the economy. And he laughed at one of those fake news anchors over the weekend. And she said, why did you have this small island nation of penguins, part of the tariffs? And he said, it's because these countries like Iran, they're actually in China going through other countries in order to put the tariffs on the United States. These are cunning people. These are bad people, but they're smart. They are swift, and they only fear people who are those of action, people like Howard Lutnick, people like President Trump, people like this entire cabinet who know a thing or two, again, about money. And thank God we have a great partner in Howard Lutnick, so focused on making America wealthy again as President Trump is. The Department of Treasury also leveled new sanctions against financiers of the Sinaloa drug cartel. This is one of talk about bad hombres. These guys are some of the worst. They have flooded our country with deadly fentanyl. Also, Treasury announced additional sanctions against a network of Houthi terrorist facilitators, and we saw them decimated in the last few weeks with surgical strikes taking place in Lebanon, in Syria, and President Trump also going after terrorists in South Sudan. So this guy won't back down, neither will our military, and we've seen growth at the Pentagon under the leadership of Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. We've seen recruitment go up per our military, and what a day it is for that. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, Colonial Metals Group. Talk about gold and silver. This is an urgent message for you, the American people. Shield your savings now, especially when you have the Chinese Communist Party and crazy things happening around the world with stagnation, inflation. Of course, auto pen Biden caused so much of that. But billionaires are fleeing Wall Street. They are putting billions into stocks and also gold and silver. I trust the experts at Colonial Metals Group. I've had the opportunity to interview Paul Stone, the great CEO, on a regular basis here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Visit freegoldguide.com/RSBN. That is freegoldguide.com/RSBN, or call 866-317-2159 for your free gold guide. The 2025 gold guide will really show you with no obligation how gold has gone from 7,000% increasing from 1971 when we went off of the gold standard under the Nixon administration, arguably the dumbest thing that could have ever taken place by an administration. But regardless, protect yourself now with gold and silver. And in the meantime, if you sign up with this wonderful company, Colonial Metals Group, you could also qualify for a free home safe and as much as $7,500 in free silver. So once again, freegoldguide.com/RSBN or call 866-317-2159. Colonial Metals Group, Paul Stone, thank you for supporting us here and sponsoring us at Right Side Broadcasting Network. That is a packed house today at the White House in the East Room. We are awaiting President Trump as he celebrates with those Los Angeles Dodgers, formerly of Brooklyn, New York, and a team that is one storied for the ages, some of the best teams in history, and they did not disappoint last year. Really, they were unstoppable with their pitching, incredible on-base percentages, and a can-do attitude and a winning spirit that has inspired the country. President Trump loves sports, and especially America's pastime, baseball. So looking forward to that great ceremony live from the White House. The Department of the Interior announced its next oil and gas lease sale in the Gulf of America, fulfilling President Trump's pledge to unleash American energy. And this is a renaissance. This is a golden era. There's no question about this, because the Interior also implemented President Trump's executive order to enhance public safety, clean up lands, protect federal parks, and preserve historic monuments in the District of Columbia, all part of his initiative to make America's cities beautiful, clean, and great again. The Department of Health and Human Services launched a department-wide restructuring to align with its core mission and save taxpayers billions of dollars. That's all meanwhile Secretary Kennedy meeting with Governor Morrisey in West Virginia in order to implement the beginnings of state-led reforms. And in West Virginia, they're going to have a 4-tier system of not only focusing on a carnivore diet, but less ingredients, real ingredients. If it doesn't come out of the ground, why eat it? Getting rid of the red dyes, the blue dyes, all the chemicals in the food, especially breakfast cereals. And the governor himself, Patrick Morrisey, committed to walking a mile a day. Secretary Kennedy is going to be his personal trainer as well. So that was a great ceremony a couple of weeks ago to see that all start out with not only HHS and the leadership of Secretary Kennedy, but also different governors throughout the country. The Department of Health and Human Services announced states can bar welfare recipients from using taxpayer dollars to purchase unhealthy soft drinks. That's the killer in all of this. Think about the high fructose corn syrup. I like every once in a while a Dr. Pepper, but I hate to look at those ingredients because it is just sugary, modified GMOs that your brain receptors really can't respond to. And it's high in caloric intake and really just a waste. There's nothing healthy or beneficial for you to consume these things. So the Department of Labor also announced it will return $1.4 billion in unused COVID funds back to the U.S. Treasury. So see, health and financial well-being seem to go hand in hand. And ultimately, this MAGA agenda has been able to unite in order to save the country. So we've seen this on a daily basis coming from this brilliant administration. The FBI announced a record number of new agent applications under its new leadership under Director Kash Patel. So Dick Durbin, you really thought that Kash Patel would deplete the FBI, as you said during your testimony, during his confirmation hearing. You were wrong once again, Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois. This has been the best director of the FBI in recent memory, someone who actually is fighting for transparency. I also can't remember an FBI director who actually went to a raid with ICE and with FBI agents to make sure the bad guys got apprehended. This was done in Virginia with Attorney General Pam Bondi and also Governor Glenn Youngkin, who mentioned in the press conference after the raid removing some of the top bad hombres from MS-13 to Tren de Aragua. Governor Youngkin saying he never had this kind of federal support coming from the Auto Pen administration 4 years ago. So how good is that to have a president and an administration committed to the safety and well-being of United States citizens? The Department of Justice dismissed a Biden-era lawsuit against common sense, effective Georgia election law reforms. We also have the Department of Justice launching investigations into the DEI initiatives at Stanford, California, Berkeley, UCLA, and the University of California at Irvine. The Department of Justice said it will pursue the death penalty for the accused cold-blooded killer of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. And thank God for that, because this guy, I don't even want to say his name, because why would you do that? Even if you have a disagreement with someone or a system, you run for office, you talk to them, you write letters, you don't assassinate someone who has 3 little kids, married. I think he was my age, this Brian Thompson. You know, and again, someone who was responsible for running the company. Well, we'll go there live now. It looks like President Trump is coming out with those World Series champions, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Baseball season underway, and now we're celebrating those champions from last year. They could do it again. We'll toss it live there now, the East Room at the White House.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by Mark Walter, owner and chairman of the Los Angeles Dodgers.
That's a good-looking group. I see some people oftentimes, like politicians behind me, it's not so pretty. That is a very good-looking group of people. And I'm thrilled to welcome to the White House and very special people, actually, very talented people, the 2024 World Series champion, the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I want to congratulate you on a legendary season, and I watched it very closely. Some of those teams were home teams, and you did a big number. You're really amazing how it all came out and how it all ended. With us today is Dodgers owner and chairman Mark Walter. Thank you very much, Mark. Congratulations. President Stan Kasten, one of the greatest managers of the really ever to wear the Dodger blue, Dave Roberts. What a time he's had. That's great. What a job. I think he would have lasted even with George Steinbrenner, right? I love George, but he was very quick. He would, you lose 2 games and you were fired, right? Great job, Dave. Also want to recognize Secretary of Agriculture. We have some great people, Brooke Rollins, who, you know, when I came to office, they said the eggs are gone through the roof. Eggs. I said, what the hell are they talking about? I was there for 4 days, and they were blaming me for eggs, and they've gone up like 6 times or something, some record number. You couldn't get them. And I gave it to Brooke, and I just saw the other day they're down 73%. Right? That's pretty good. And the press doesn't mention that. Nobody talks about it, so but I know. Secretary of Labor, Lori Chavez de Rimmer. Thank you. Congratulations. The Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, who's a big Dodger fan, by the way. Susie, thank you. And we have also Representatives Kevin Kiley, Congressman Kevin Kiley, Young Kim, thank you. Congratulations. Great job. Jay Olbernolte. Jay. Thanks, Jay. Nanette Barragan. Nanette, where's the... Hi, Nanette. Oh, look at that, huh? What nice outfit. One of my favorite people, Gus Bilirakis, Congressman. Hi, Gus. Addison McDowell, new to the Congress, but doing a great job. Thank you, Addison. A real good baseball player and a friend of mine, Roger Williams. Great job. And another new congressman, but he's been there a long time in a mental sense because he has really done a job, and he knows Congress very well. He was with me for 7 years. Brian Jack. Brian, congratulations, Brian. And others. We have a couple of senators here. I just don't particularly like them, so I won't introduce. Over the course of this amazing season, the members of this team... I didn't think it was that big a deal, actually. Washington. Over the course of this amazing season, the members of this team gave us some of the most incredible performances ever seen in the baseball diamond. In all of baseball history, only 6 players have ever hit 40 home runs and stolen 40 bases in a single season. And an elite group known as the 40-40 Club. It's a 40-40 club, and very few people make it. But unanimous National League MVP, Shohei Ohtani. Looks like a movie star. He's got a good future, I'm telling you. Here, think of it, all of them. And he did something even more because he became the first ever member of the 50-50 club. So 40-40 is top. Hitting 54 home runs and 59 steals, and an accomplishment unparalleled in 149 years of Major League Baseball. Think of that. That's just incredible. Even more incredibly, Shohei clinched that achievement in what some have called the greatest game ever. Was it that good of a game? That was a pretty good game, actually, right there. Is he good?
He's only getting better.
And he's getting better.
Getting better.
That's scary for a lot of people, huh? Even more incredibly, Shohei clinched the achievement. I mean, it really was, and at a time that, at an age that nobody ever thought was possible. On September 19th, 2024, he did the unthinkable by going 6 for 6. This is a pretty amazing. I didn't realize it was that good. I saw that game. 6 for 6 against the Marlins with 3 homers, 10 RBIs, and a pair of stolen bases. Other than that, it was not a great game. How many people have gone 6 for 6? Just period, right? Not very much, right?
Maybe a dozen.
Maybe a dozen. Amazing. As you know, the Dodgers were down a lot of talent on the mound last season due to injury. The resilient group used 40 different pitchers, the most ever by an eventual World Series championship team. They had to go and get them. I don't know how they got them and where they got them, but they got them because they won. I know you especially miss the heart and soul of the pitching staff, Clayton Kershaw, who is really fantastic. These are the best-looking people I've ever seen. It's incredible. But Clayton has been unbelievable, and if you look at his records and you look at the stamina, the endurance that he's had, and we're really happy to have him. I'm glad to meet him. I've watched him for a long time. He's a young guy yet, but you are a young guy, but I've watched you for a long time. So congratulations. Amazing. All year, the Dodgers faced down adversity. You entered the playoffs battered and bruised, but not broken. When you ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy. They had great arms, but they ran out. It's called sports. It's called baseball in particular, and pitchers, I guess you could say, in really particular. But the starting rotation during the National League Division Series, this scrappy Dodgers bullpen shut out the Padres, saved the season, and forced Game 5. Then key players battled back from midseason injuries to help deliver the National League pennant, including superstars Mookie Betts. Oh, is he good?
Good looking.
Mookie, that guy can play, can't he? I mean, unbelievable. You really, Mookie is, I've been watching it. I don't want to say I watched him when he was on Boston, but I did. I didn't think that was a particularly good trade when they made it, and I happened to be right. And Max Muncy, I want to congratulate Max. Max. Come here, Max. His arms are very strong when I touch them. I'm used to shaking politicians and hitting their armors like Jell-O, and now it's like steel. All these guys, but Max, that's great, and also Yoshi Yamamoto. Yoshi. Wow, what great athletes. And, of course, Series MVP, Tommy Edman. That was an MVP series. Good feeling, right? With all these guys, you're the guys, right? Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a lot of talent you had to beat out there for the MVP, but they all had an incredible. Tommy was 407 with 11 RBIs in 6 games. That's not bad, right? That's not bad. Great job. When it counted, too. Next game, the blockbuster World Series against another iconic team known as the New York Yankees. I love the Yankees. George was a great friend of mine. He had very few friends, but he was. And if you want to sit for 9 innings with a game watching the Yankees play with George, you were exhausted by the end of the game. It was actually hard work, but we love George. And they're doing a good job, and they're doing well this season, and you're already 9-2. And so you're doing a good job. Maybe you see the same thing over again. In Game 1 of the World Series, Freddie Freeman, on a sprained ankle, he's a great player with a broken finger and a broken rib, channeled Kirk Gibson's legendary walk-off home run in Game 1 of the 1988 World Series. That was a game that pretty much everybody remembers. He could hardly swing the bat, but he swung it one time, and it was a shot. On the first pitch Freddie saw in the bottom of the 10th, he hit an unforgettable walk-off grand slam home run, the first in World Series history. It's amazing. The Dodgers rode the momentum to win 2 of their next 3 games, placing them on the verge of baseball immortality in a dramatic Game 5, down 5 runs on the top of the 5th. That was a strange inning, I'll tell you, for those Yankee fans. But I'm not saying I was a Yankee fan, because I love these people behind me. But down 5 runs in the top of the 5th with 2 outs and the bases loaded, the Dodgers gave us one of the grittiest half-inning World Series events, showings that anybody's ever seen. Mookie started the rally by beating out a routine ground ball to first, which he's fast as hell. I don't know how the hell you can. Having that speed isn't that a great thing? I played baseball, but it was sort of slow. I wasn't fast. Driving in the phenomenal Kike Hernandez. Where's Kike? It's a hell of a group. Then Freddie drove in 2 more runs, and Teoscar Hernandez drove in another couple of runs. That's a group. Teoscar, so you're doing well this season too? A little bit. Yes, that's what I heard. That's what I heard. After a few dominant innings from Blake Trainin. Where's Blake? I heard dominant, right? That's dominant. Great job, Blake. And the team was crowned the World Series champion against a great team. The Yankees are a great team and always a great franchise. And I guess, I don't know, like 28 or something. They've won a lot, probably, maybe more than any team in history overall. And you might be catching them pretty soon if you keep going. You've got a little ways to go, I guess. The scouting report at the start of the series said that the Dodgers could win by focusing on the fundamentals, and that's exactly what they did. You showed America that it's not about individual glory. It's about the team digging deep and sprinting right through first base, and you did that all the time. I watch some games. I love baseball. I don't get to watch as much as I'd like, but you always see a spirit on this team. I think a lot of that has to do with the ownership and the management, frankly. But you see a spirit on the Dodgers that you don't see with a lot of teams. A lot of teams I turn on, I say, oh, let's forget it. When I turn on the Dodgers, I like to watch the team. And now that I've gotten to meet these guys personally, I like it even more. I'm going to like it even more, and you're off to a great start. After seeing how successfully you've begun the season, I can tell you that you can plan on being back here. I hope you're going to be back here next year. I don't want to give you too much because we want to have a little suspense for next year, but I will tell you, we're going to go down. We're going to do something we don't do generally. We're going to run them down really fast. Have a game today? Do you have a game today or tonight? We're going to run them down to the Oval Office, and we're going to show them the fabled Oval Office, and there's nothing like it. And this wonderful owner, one of the greatest owners in sports, by the way, from everything I've heard, one of the greatest owners in sports, along with your other compatriots, right, fellas? It's a great team of owners, and that's very important. But he said they'd love it, and I think he'd like to do it himself. So we'll get out of here, and we will run. We'll sprint down, and we'll see the Oval Office, which is really something to see, you know? It's funny. People come from all over, the biggest people, the richest people, the most powerful people, and they come and they go into the Oval Office and they just stare. Oh, wow, that's something. They all have beautiful offices. They have offices that are the best in the world in many cases, but they love the Oval Office. So with all of that, I'd like to now introduce you to the Dodgers chairman, Mark Walter, to say a few words, and then we're going to follow that up with Clayton, who's going to say a couple of things, and that's a great representative of a great team. Thank you very much. Mark, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We're very pleased to participate in the tradition of bringing champions to the White House. Last season was an incredible season. We won the World Series. Second time in 2020, and since 2020, and only 8 times in our seasons, our history. We played in front of almost 4 million fans, and we had many millions more on television. Our global following has soared, and not only from Shohei Ohtani, but also from Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Clayton Kershaw, and many, many more. Alongside this on-field success, we have been deeply immersed in our community. Our players and managers have supported have each had foundations and support for communities. Our trust last year has committed $100 million to help Chicago or LA Fire. And so on behalf of the organization, I want to thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, wow, this is an incredible honor for me, and to stand here today representing the Los Angeles Dodgers and this group of staff and players behind me today. The 2024 Los Angeles Dodgers season is one that will go down in the history books, always holding a special place in the hearts of myself and those there with me, as well as millions of Dodger fans around the world. This organization exemplifies what it means to come together as one for a greater purpose and to represent something so much bigger than themselves. The selflessness and humility that each one of these players and staff have shown over the last year is truly an inspiration. They have constantly played hurt, switched positions, and taken the ball to put the team first. As a spectator for our championship run last year, I was in awe of this group. Their unwavering confidence, coupled with the selfless pursuit for team excellence, was an inspiration. That is why I'm so grateful to get to speak today on their behalf, as I know none of them would say this about themselves. Moving forward, I hope the 2024 Dodgers can serve as an inspiration to many like they were to me, not just in sports, but in life, remembering to put others before ourselves. It moves a team and a society forward. So thank you for allowing me to speak today, because the story of the 2024 World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers is a true joy to get to tell, and it's because of the extraordinary people that are behind me and their incredible pursuit of excellence. Thank you. And Mr. President, we have a gift for you as well.
Oh, I like that. Wow. Ooh, I like that. Come on, Mark.
Oh, they're going to move it.
And President Trump enjoying his day, starting it off well with the Los Angeles Dodgers, those World Series champions. And now they're going to get a tour of the Oval Office. And as he ran through the amazing stats of so many standout players, records set, incredible pitching. You just think of Clayton Kershaw, just wow. They really paved the way for a winning team and could do it again this year. They're already 9-2. So, I mean, they've come out hot. And a hard thing to do in baseball, repeat a championship, but definitely a possibility with this crew. As I was going through the highlights of President Trump's victories, as he was highlighting the great stats of this team, the Department of Transportation continued making progress on the unprecedented backlog of unfulfilled grants left over from the Penn Biden administration. The Department of Housing and Urban Development also launched a streamlined website that officially provides vital information to Americans and saves taxpayers a lot of money in the long run. United States Citizenship and Immigration Services formally removed the option of a third gender on immigration paperwork. You might not have known about that one. Not really reported around many networks, but very important, especially for our national security, further restoring common sense to our government. And Dr. Mehmet Oz was confirmed as administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and Matthew Whitaker confirmed as the U.S. ambassador to NATO, continuing the rapid pace at which President Trump's nominees receive final approval. And if you were watching any of the hearing last week as well with Ambassador, former Senator David Perdue, just the importance of having to deal with the Chinese Communist Party, something that's now become really a bipartisan focus moving forward with the administration and those in Congress. If you're just joining us now, it's almost noon o'clock at the White House on our beautiful East Coast. It is 9 a.m. back at the home of the Dodgers, Los Angeles, California. And I'm Robert McNeely. It's a pleasure to be with you as President Trump is hosting the Los Angeles Dodgers at the White House, the World Series champions. And I actually texted a dear friend of mine who works at the White House, hoping to get a photo of one of those big rings. I've had the privilege of wearing a White Sox ring. I actually know the optometrist for the team. He was in the Lions Club with me way back in Wheaton, Illinois a few years ago. And I saw my buddy there who's at the White House. He was wearing the Chicago Cubs ring when they visited the White House during the first term. Those are some big rings. They're fun to see and fun to hold and share in this great celebration of American sports competition. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. AngelPaste.com. Experience that miracle today with their Miracle Cream. This is vitamin B infused, non-GMO, no chemicals. A great option for those dry hands. They also have an immunity line known as the Orange Option, and they have natural mosquito repellents as well. They know a thing or two about mosquito repellent being in the tropical area of Spring, Texas, just off of the Gulf of America, a beautiful location in the Lone Star State. They are Christian owned and operated. They also hire veterans. So a wonderful company, big fans of theirs, and I've tried their products. I wholeheartedly endorse them. So feel free to take a look, especially guys. They have a facial spray as well. So get ready to paint the town red. The only way to do that is by experiencing the miracle at AngelPaste.com. Thank you for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. And Mr. Director, that other sponsor real quick. Oh yes, American Finance. Please meet with them as tax season is underway. So we're all focusing on the cost of living, and AmericanFinancing.net/RSBN can help you save up to $800 per month. And if you reach out to them today, they'll actually be able to help you with backlogging 2 payments. So think about this, the backlog of $800 per month, so you could save up to $1,600 really over the course of the next 2 months. It is a smart group to go with if you own a townhouse, a home, whatever it might be. American Financing, thank you for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. And stay with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, because today we have a meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He'll be meeting with President Donald Trump, of course, the leader of the State of Israel, his second meeting with President Trump at the White House. Mr. Matthew Alvarez will be in to cover all of that and those serious issues facing the State of Israel, also facing America in lieu of that horrible October 7th attack back in 2023. President Trump taking Hamas, Hezbollah, also the Houthis to task with surgical strikes and also different tariffs against the country of Lebanon. But the biggest thing is getting Israelis back into the northern region along that border with the Lebanese government, because all of the agriculture and all of those support systems, the water, irrigation systems come into Jerusalem through the northern part of the country. So very important work to be done as Peace Through Strength is winning as the Abraham Accords 2.0 come into effect. Get all of your America First updates and exclusive offers right here at RightSideBroadcastingNetwork.com/newsletter. See all of our wonderful writers here at Right Side. Also, if you are able to, please feel free to donate to this citizen journalist outlet known as Right Side Broadcasting Network at RSBNetwork.com/donate. We appreciate anything to keep this America First update moving in real time. We are now your go-to live desk for all of the new media, everything in the America First world, whether it be inside or outside of the Beltway. But we will wrap this broadcast and then stay tuned for this afternoon, where President Trump will be meeting with Bibi Netanyahu around that 1:30 Eastern mark. We'll also have updates for you to play regarding a number of different interviews, including commentary from our very own Christina Loren on the storms that have been affecting the Southeast United States. But for all of my wonderful colleagues here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, I'm Robert McNeely. We'll see you very soon. Have a great day. God bless, and stay on the right side of history.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
President Trump is keeping his promises and saving America. And your kids can learn all about it for free with a new Kids Guide to President Trump. This fun guide shows kids all the steps President Trump is taking to put America back on top of the world stage, including building a strong economy, protecting our borders, and negotiating trade deals. It's an exciting way for kids to learn about President Trump's outstanding leadership. Act now and get a free bonus guide, The Courage of the President. Order now at freetrumpbook.com. That's freetrumpbook.com.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live Show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.